to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. I am your host, Michael Leva, joined by a very special guest today, Anwar Richardson, who covers Texas football for OrangeBloods.com. You can follow him on social media, Twitter, at Anwar Richardson. Anwar, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. First of all, props to you. You pronounced it Anwar, not Anwar. So I already like you.
I've done research. I didn't want to screw it up. I found YouTube videos of how other people have introduced you. And
Yes.
I don't even have to ask them. I think I got it right.
You got it right. You
Right.
nailed it. And look, as a native Floridian, it's always good to talk about the Dolphins. I went to high school in Lakeland, Florida. Graduated out there. Went to USF. And graduated from school there, covered the Buccaneers for many a year. So it's always good to be back in Florida somewhat and be able to talk some Florida football.
Yep, and we're going to talk Quinn Ewers, who was picked by the Miami Dolphins last weekend, round 7, as there's so much to talk about with Quinn Ewers. But before we get to that, shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to the website, caneswear.com, for the best Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. Also, visit their store at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. If you need the most affordable and the best Miami Dolphins apparel, caneswear.com is the place to go. All right, last weekend at the draft, everyone's talking about Shedeur Sanders, the fall, and everything. Quinn Ewers, heading into last year's, was one of the top quarterback prospects, and he fell to round 7, the last quarterback taken in the draft. Leading up to this draft, what were you hearing about Quinn? Did you expect him to go round 3, round 4, round 5, or were you thinking round 7 might be it? What was the scuttlebutt at Texas?
Listen, nobody, and if anybody tries to tell you that they thought that they knew that Quinn was going to fall to the 7th round, they're lying. Don't believe that. Most people around here thought that Quinn would probably be maybe a day 2 pick, so maybe 3rd roundish. If worse, then if that doesn't happen, then okay, then maybe goes on day 3 and he's maybe 4th, something to that effect, right? Nothing crazy. Nobody, and I'm saying nobody would have predicted this, because if they would have predicted this and would have known this would have happened, there probably would have been a conversation of maybe you should do another year in college, even though it wouldn't be at Texas, right? But because it's Arch Manning's team, and they have to hand the reins over to Arch Manning. But you may have to be a person that says, okay, I got to transfer somewhere else, Carson Beck, right? I got to transfer somewhere else because nobody would have expected him to be the last pick taken in draft. When Quinn comes out of high school, Quinn isn't just a 5-star. On many of the scouting services, they had him ranked as the number 1 overall player, period. Not quarterback. I'm talking better than running backs, linebackers, offensive linemen. He was number 1 on everyone's board. People thought of him as a generational talent, right? That's what they were saying about him in high school. We know what happens. He goes to Ohio State. He's there for, a brief cup of coffee. He comes here to Texas. He starts for 3 years. But going into last season, Mike, there were Heisman odds on him, right? The legit Heisman odds as, okay, does he have a chance to win it? They were coming off a season where they had went to the semifinals. And so you thought to yourself, okay, he's coming off a season, coming on the semifinals. Yeah, he could have maybe gone pro after that season, but he decides he's going to come back for one more year. You're thinking to yourself, all right, another year. Steve Sarkisian is the QB whisperer. I mean, you know all of his success as a quarterback coach, and so you're thinking to yourself, all right, this is going to be fine. And at worst, a Steve Sarkisian quarterback is going to go to the third round. It's a huge shock, huge surprise. I don't think anyone saw that one coming. And look, we're at the point in the draft, where it started getting a little hazy for me when I started realizing that where I started realizing there may be a is when Dylan Gabriel was taken in the third round.
That surprised a lot of people. Yeah.
Yes, and when Dylan Gabriel was taken in the third round, that's when I said, this is not good, because at no point, and I thought Dylan Gabriel was a good college quarterback. I didn't see him as a third round pick, though, right? So that happens. And so, yes, everyone in the world's focused on Shedeur. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not good, because once you get, as you cover this thing, once you start getting past like the third round, teams are just taking talent at that point. They're taking talent, most talented players that are on the board. We'll get to the quarterback later, and that's when Shedeur goes into the fifth. And all of a sudden, now it just keeps going and going. And then I see Will Howard go, and I was like, man, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, it's gone. Then the ultimate kicker at that point was there was a guy from North Dakota State taken, a guy from Montana State taken. I'm like, is he going to get drafted? Is he going to get drafted? And we'll get into the whys for a second. He finally gets drafted. Steve Sarkisian, we spoke to him on Monday, and he kind of tried to say, at the end of the day, if you're not a first round pick, it's all about finding the right spots, right? And so you feel like going there into Miami, is a good spot for him, similar offense. So, it may not be where he wanted to go, but at the end of the day, he may have landed into the right spot for him. But from a disappointment standpoint, anyone that says that they thought he would be a 7th round pick and they're happy about it, that's just not true.
Yeah, because you saw his face even after he was picked on TV. He did look, most guys are picked, they're hugging their family members, jumping up, and he looked kind of sad, actually, probably because he didn't expect to go towards the end of the draft, round 7. And you mentioned,
and by the way, at some point, can someone take the damn cameras out? Like,
I know
at some point, when we're in the 5th round, we're like, you know what?
We don't need to see it. Exactly.
We don't need to see this anymore. Someone take the cameras out the room. Let this young man have this and be where he's at, because, hey, man, like, give this kid a break. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Mike.
No, you're 100% right. And you mentioned that, hindsight's always 20/20. Would he have went somewhere else to play one more year? There's the report, which I think the number's got to be off, that he could have made $8 million in NIL money. $8 million is a lot. Now, there's no way that's true, because there's only like a couple schools that can come close to paying anything near that. Michigan, Ohio State, which you probably ain't going back there, Miami, Notre Dame. After that, maybe USC.
Oregon,
yes. They got the Nike money.
But no one's dropping $8 million. Like
$8 million. That's insane.
The NIL, the people who report it, people who report on NIL, the thing is that they can throw whatever numbers they want out there, and unless the school is willing to actually reveal their numbers, there's nothing that anyone can do to really combat it. We know the numbers are not accurate, but no school is really going to come out and say, actually, this is what we spend, because they don't want to, tip their hand. But there's no way he was going to make 8. He probably could have, and realistically, maybe he makes like 3, something to that effect. Which
3 or 4, that's probably realistic.
Not chump change by any stretch of imagination. But what the things that again, hindsight being 20/20, sure, maybe you go. I think some of the things that ended up working against Quinn a little bit was, a little bit of the injury history, just a little bit. He's not the only guy that a quarterback who's got drafted who's had injuries, right?
Exactly.
So there is a little bit of, since high school, he has been injured, and every season that he's been at Texas, he has sustained an injury. So can you invest a high draft pick into a person that you're not, if you're struggling to play 12 games for an NFL season, can you invest a high draft pick in a person like that? Probably not so much, right? There's some other things that he has to work on. I think the pocket presence sometimes has been a little bit of an issue. Now, look, it's easy to say that when you've got, 260-pound men, 300-pound men coming at you, that you need to keep your head up and just complete the pass. Like that's easy to say, right?
Easy to say, yeah. Just stand there, throw the ball. What are you doing? Go on.
Yeah, like duh. I mean, it's easy, right? That's hard, right? And so there are times where I think there was a little bit jittery in the pocket. The ability to complete the deep ball, he can throw the deep ball. That's not the issue. But he had Xavier Worthy, as one of his top receivers a couple of years ago, and there was always a struggle to make sure he can find Xavier Worthy in stride. You can see what Xavier Worthy does with a Patrick Mahomes, but there was a struggle there as well. And so I ended up thinking that it just ends up being a lot of little things from whether it's mechanical, pocket presence, where they say to themselves, not, hey, he's not worth taking it that high, right? And so he's probably a little bit smaller. I think the benefit for him, as I start looking for bright notes for Quinn, one is, and this is kind of the biggest one. He has been on the NFL fast track since high school. He's never really had the chance to just sit back and just be a quarterback and enjoy life. It was, you got to skip that senior year in high school, go to Ohio State, make that NIL money. He's kind of one of the first guys that said, okay, we're going to take advantage of that. So all of a sudden, we're not talking about proms or anything like that. Like we're just like, we're in the business world. You get to Ohio State, you're not the starter, you're buried on the depth chart. Instead of saying, okay, well, let's just go ahead and see this thing through. Let's give this a couple of years. You could be the backup. It's like, we got to get the hell out of here. So you're out of Ohio State. Now Texas needs a quarterback at that point. So you come to Texas and you're starter on day one, right? But now you've had 3 years as a starter, but you've also had all that pressure that's associated with it. Sometimes, as being that kid from that city who then goes to that program, it's a lot of pressure. Like if you're a 5-star in South Florida and you go to University of Miami, it's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of eyes on you, as opposed to you just went somewhere across the country and no one's really thinking about you. Now all of a sudden you're that generational talent back at Texas, and you've got all this weight of the world on your shoulder, and you got all the Texas fans who are watching you. Then you all of a sudden you feel like, okay, well, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to develop. And then Texas goes ahead and signs the most notable quarterback name that anyone could sign, by the name of Arch Manning. So now you've got a fan base who is waiting for Manning to play. Like everyone is clamoring for Manning. This is the first family of football, right? Everyone's waiting for Arch to get in. Arch comes into the game, and it is like the most thunderous applause that you could ever see. I mean, when Arch came into games, especially like last year, the stadium would erupt. I'm talking about 100,000 people screaming.
He's football royalty. Football royalty. It's the Mannings. We have a Manning.
It's the man. It is football. It's sports royalty. I mean, when you start thinking about the first family of sports, of all sports, let alone football, it's when you start thinking about the Howes and you put the Mannings, like that's there, right? And so you've had that. You're also dealing with injuries, consistently, right? So I think the benefit for him in Miami is that he's away from Texas. He's going to go to Miami, going to be just a guy. It's not going to be expected.
No pressure.
You're a 7th-round pick. You got to make the team first and foremost. You got to make the team, but you got to make sure you got to hope that you're out on a practice squad. So he's just a guy. If he makes the team, he's a guy that can start to heal from some of the injuries that he's been dealing with throughout the years. He's got the tools, and then if he can just kind of grow and develop, he's got a chance to be, I think, a productive quarterback. What does that mean? I don't know if it's a career backup. I don't know if he's a guy that
it's a hell of a career. If you are just a career backup, you're making pretty good money, And you're always going to be the most popular guy in the team because everyone loves the backup. Because look at the starter, he ain't getting it done. Putting something like that ain't bad. Ain't a bad life.
It's not a bad life at all. It's a great life to just collect checks for 10 years. And realistically, all you have to do is play in a preseason game, right? Just play in a preseason game, look decent, and then just go back to the bench and collect your checks, right? Be quiet in the meeting rooms, this and that. He's a quiet kid too, as well. He's not going to be a disruptive force, anything to that effect. So, I think there's a benefit for him. I think for Miami, there's no risk associated with him. It's a 7th round pick. If it doesn't work out, you cut him. No one thinks about it twice, right? And you just move on. But if he does hit and he starts to maybe live up to the potential, and he starts, because he's the kid that he had glimpses of it in college. It just wasn't always consistent, right? He's a kid that leads Texas into Tuscaloosa 2 seasons ago, and they beat the University of Alabama by 10 points, which, by
he
the
was
way,
good in that game. He was good in that game.
Nobody goes into Tuscaloosa and beats them by double digits. And he looked fantastic. He outduels Jalen Milroe in that game, right? He's a guy that last year took his team on the road, even though the Michigan team wasn't the same team, but he still was a guy that they played against Michigan and they go into Ann Arbor and they win because and Quinn is a huge part of that, right? And so he is a guy that 2 seasons ago led them to a Big 12 championship, and he broke records in the Big 12 championship game against Oklahoma State, right? So it's there. It's just about, okay, I think if he's in a place where he could just sit down, learn, relax, then you hoping that those glimpses that you saw, the throws they was able to make against Arizona State late in the playoffs, right? Those kind of little things, you feel like if you can bring that out of him, as opposed to some of the things maybe you saw against Georgia, this past season where he didn't look like he was an elite guy. If you can get that out of him, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's very low risk, high reward for Miami.
It's like a scratch off lottery ticket. You scratch off, maybe you win $1 or $2. Okay, win $1, $2, he's your backup. Or maybe you hit the jackpot. And that's what all this is with a 7th round pick. It's a scratch off lottery ticket. And I think compared to most 7th round pick type quarterbacks, the upside is there. He just has to perform, and now it's up to the Miami Dolphins to get that out of him. And we'll see if it happens. Nobody knows as of today. But yeah, there's a lot of upside there, and it's literally a scratch off lottery ticket. Arch Manning, you mentioned, how is the relationship? Because again, Arch Manning comes in, it's a Manning. He's going to be why the fans are going to love him just off the last name alone. He's still very unproven. He hasn't played that much, but fans love him anyways because it's got the Manning name. How was their relationship? And also the oblique injury he suffered last year. Well, he missed a couple games. I think they said at first it was like a strain, and then it was a tear, and they weren't sure. When he came back from that, did he look like the same guy, or was that a factor in how he played the second part of last year?
So the first part of your question, the Arch thing, is that Arch has kind of credited Quinn for really trying to take him under his wing, try to be a guy that's a leader to him. And Arch said he's a guy that he's been able to look up to as far as how to handle certain things, how to handle certain situations, how to deal with the media. He's had a lot of scrutiny. Quinn has. Like, don't get it twisted.
He's mentally tough. He's been through it. Yeah,
he's been through it at Texas. Like, no one was throwing rose petals at the young man's feet because they had those high expectations that he didn't live up to. Even though he did lead them to the semifinals for 2 straight years, there still were games and things like that where people felt like he could have played better, right? So, I think they had a good relationship. I wouldn't necessarily describe them as best friends, but I think they have a really good relationship, a really good, solid relationship, a lot of respect for each other. Again, it had to be hard on Quinn. It had to be hard where, sure, the backup's the most popular guy, but that's Arch Manning. That's more than just
different
popularity.
level. Yeah.
When you start thinking, I told people going into this season, and let's say this season, I mean 2025, he will be arguably the face of college football. Like, so we're clear. He will be the thing that when people are watching First Take, he's the guy that they're going to be talking about. When you're watching your FS1 stuff, he's going to be the guy that people are talking about. He will be your Dallas Cowboys, LeBron James, like
Aaron Rodgers.
Anwar
We're going to take your temperature every week. How did he do last week, Arch? How does he do this week, Arch?
Correct.
They're going to take the temperature every week.
Every week, because they know it sells, they know it gets clicks, and so he'll be that guy. And so, Quinn had to kind of go in that spotlight. And by the way, when Arch is ready to come out, he will be the number 1 overall pick in whatever draft he chooses. I don't think it'll be after this season. I think it'll be after the next season. But if he catches lightning in a bottle, just imagine, Mike, you're a GM and you talking to your owner. And the owner is like, hey, man, I hear Arch Manning is coming out. He's like, yeah, but I really think there might be some other players. I think there's an offensive tackle that we can take that I think would be a little bit better. Why don't you go ahead and get fired that day? Okay,
yeah.
just go ahead.
I want Nussmeier from LSU. Nussmeier's a great quarterback. You know what? Arch Manning puts butts in seats. You know what? He's going to say, let's roll the dice on Arch.
Yeah. How about this? Merchandise sales. We're going to increase season tickets. We're going to increase our corporate sponsorships are going to go up. TV is going to be here at all times. Like
Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, the whole thing.
Everything. You're going to turn that down? I don't give a damn if he's ready or not.
Exactly.
Who cares? Like, you'll take him just because that makes financial sense for you, right? And so having to deal with that spotlight was kind of tough for Quinn, but he was. What was the second part of the question, too?
About his oblique injury. When he came back from that, did he look like the same guy? Because Louis Riddick absolutely destroyed Quinn Ewers. I don't know if you saw it or not on the draft. I have the clip if you didn't see it.
Yes, but play it. Yeah, I want to hear it.
It is only 41 seconds, so it's not too long.
Let's do it.
I just look personally. I just didn't see it. I just didn't see. And I'm not someone who gets too caught up in horsepower in someone's arm, right? I think it's about passing the football, not throwing the football. But it just never seemed like he was able to really just put any juice on it. The play style just seems so lethargic, and it just seems so like in the NFL that they would eat him up if it wasn't open for him immediately. It reminded me a little bit of it was like little Chad Pennington-esque, but Chad was a very effective quarterback. Quinn just didn't do it for me. I just don't know what the projection really looks like for him. I don't ever see him being a starter in the NFL, quite honestly, and I'm not surprised to see him sitting here still without a team.
Now, literally 2 minutes after he said that, he was picked by the Dolphins. So I don't know if he was told he's about to go to Miami or what, because that was pick 230. Pick 231, Quinn Ewers goes to Miami. So it's either weird timing or he got a heads up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Lewis is not. I won't look at it and say, "Oh, okay, well that he took a cheap shot." Those are
fair criticisms, I guess, on some level.
Those are fair criticisms. I think there's a couple of things. So in the NFL, if you really think about how the NFL really is, the NFL is not guys throwing 20, 30 yards down the field on every single play. It's not. That's not how the NFL works, okay? The NFL, for the most part, is short passing. It's short yardage with the occasional deep balls. But if you look at it, most plays are within a few yards of each other. So so that there is that thing that needs to be there. Now, yes, Quinn, he's got to get good. He's could get a bit better with some of his reads. I would agree with that. I don't think he took a cheap shot. I think the thing when you ask me about the oblique, do I think he was at 100%? No, he wasn't at 100%. He definitely tried to get back on the field because he wanted to be in the NFL. Like one of the biggest questions that Quinn had, and one of the NFL teams were telling him going into last season is like, hey, you don't stay healthy enough. So we really would like to see if you're healthy. Well, the last thing he wanted to do was sit on the shelf for 4 or 5 weeks. So he did force himself back. Like he did have to find ways to deal with the pain before games, right? And so there is that. That being said, there's two things that can be true. It may have affected him. The challenge is, but there's always been injuries. And that's the other part of it. Sure, that affected him this year. What affected him 2 seasons ago? He had injuries then. What affected him 3 seasons ago? He had a clavicle and this and that. He had some injury, 3 years ago. So it's one of those things. It's like, yes, that explains this one. That explains 2024. But then, okay, then 2023. then 2022. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Sounds
repetitive.
like our starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Welcome to Miami, Quinn. You'll fit right in.
Hey, everybody get to know the team doctor, okay? Everybody
That's
get
right.
to know the team doctor. Just go ahead and pull out your HMO card or whatever it is. I mean, just when you come to Miami, I mean, that's what they do. Like, hey, give your insurance card. Here's the number to call. And
Put
then
him on
you
speed
go
dial.
make your
That's it,
visit.
yeah.
And here's your walk-in clinics if you need to. That's where the Miami Dolphins are going to fit in. Everyone can carpool. They can let Uber over there. And like, it's all good. So that's the thing with him, though. He has to get healthy. Like, he has to stay healthy. That's why I think the benefit for him is being able to sit for a couple of years and not have to worry about taking hits. Where what does Quinn Ewers look like at 100% healthy? I haven't seen that in a really long time. So, but we might have the opportunity to see that, and it might make a difference.
Yeah, and for him in Miami, it's actually the perfect spot for that because they just paid their starting quarterback $50 million per year, roughly somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. And he's there. And if and when he goes down, they just paid Zach Wilson, who was the number 2 pick of the draft a few years back, $6 million to be the number 2. So Zach Wilson would have to be incredibly bad for them not to put him on the field as the backup when you're getting $6 million a year. When most people are like, why are you paying this guy $6 million? He hasn't done anything with the Jets. Last year, he was with the Broncos, never stepped on the field. But okay, they paid him. So for Quinn to even sniff the field, stuff would have to go incredibly wrong this year. Zach Wilson's on a 1-year deal. Tua's on a contract to where they can get out of it in a year or so if he doesn't stay healthy or if he doesn't take them to where they want to go. So Quinn's in a nice spot where there's going to be no pressure on him this year at all. He can rest up, be the third quarterback, run the scout team, help out like in the meetings and do all that fun stuff that a third quarterback does. Because really for him to see the field this year, stuff would have to go incredibly wrong, which for the Dolphins isn't impossible. But I say it's unlikely as we sit here today in early May. It's probably unlikely.
You better knock on wood so no one blames you for it.
I've stopped knocking on wood. Anything that can go wrong with the Dolphins I've lived through it all. Couple questions as I wrap up here, just on Texas in general. Mm-hmm. Texas football, from where they were 5 years ago to where they are now, seems like they're in a really good place, in a much healthier situation. SEC helps a lot. They did lose a lot of players in this most recent draft. Offensive line, on each line of scrimmage, wide receivers who were they're gone. Well, not all gone, but the top guys are gone. Quarterback. Are they going to be able to fill those spots heading into next year? And I don't mean fill them. Yes, they can fill them. It's Texas. They got money and all that stuff. But are they going to be able to fill them and still compete at the highest level, you think, next year? Or is it going to be a small step back?
They should be okay. And I think, the thing is that, Sark really learned from Saban when he spent those couple of years out there. And he learned about, with those Alabama teams, they would send double-digit guys to the pros.
Oh, yeah.
Next year, they just keep it moving, right? And you and every year you would say to yourself, like, oh man, like, they just lost all those guys to the NFL and they didn't blink. And so when you look at Texas and what they've been able to do, and I want to see if I can pull up their draft in front of me, but they sent double-digit guys to the draft, 2 seasons ago, where I think they had 11 guys that year. They sent 12 guys this year. So they've had 23 guys drafted over the past 2 years.
Pick for off the field issues. It could have been 13 because of Isaiah. Really?
Isaiah. Oof.
That should be 13.
It should be. It should be, right? He had the talent, but that thing still needs to work.
It's got to play out.
Right?
Yeah.
But you when you look at Texas and you say, okay, they've been able to like really just stack talent. Like they're having number 1 recruiting class. He had the number 1 recruiting class in the country for the 2025 recruiting class. The transfer portal also becomes a great equalizer if you know how to use it, and they go in and they find guys that are able to help them, like Adonai Mitchell before, like Isaiah Bond, who you just mentioned there, and they've been able to utilize that to their strengths. And so, Sark feels like they're at this point where this is healthy. Like it's what Alabama used to be able to do. Yeah, you lose 10 guys or more to the NFL draft, and then you got more guys going this. Yeah, you lose Quinn Ewers, and then you're going to replace him with an Arch Manning, right? It should be that thing that kind of keeps going. They had success. They won the Big 12 in their last year there. They entered into the SEC, and people said to themselves, okay, well, how's Texas going to be able to handle the SEC? Well, they go to the SEC championship game. They're the only team that they lost to, throughout the year was Georgia. Georgia was the only team that really had their number rather. And then they were able to get to the semifinals for 2 straight years. I don't think it's a fluke. I think some of the other things I saw over the years were flukes, like when Texas went to the Sugar Bowl, the Sam Ellinger, we're back thing.
Yep.
That was a fluke, right? But I think Sark is this. I think Sark has found his sweet spot, I think, in college football. I think a lot of people speculate about the NFL thing, but sometimes when you got it good and you got a good program, you got NIL, like, why the hell would you take that risk?
Well, exactly. Nick Saban learned that the hard way. He came to Miami for 2 years and goes, I don't want to put up with this. I gotta sit here. I can't yell at the players like I yell at a college kid. That's number one. And it's just with everything else involved, he's a king in college.
Correct.
Where you have all the power. In the
Correct.
NFL, the players are the king, and you have to answer to them because you're dealing with grown men who are going to tell you what they're going to do. I'm practicing. My knee really hurts. In college, you can be like, you're going to practice or you're not going to. Like, it's a different scope. It's a different scope for him. Yeah. And, I mean, I saw a report, I think it was from the Houston Chronicle, that their payroll is going to be around $35 million. If that's even true, who knows? Once again, sounds like a crazy number. But if it's close to that, I mean, from an NIL perspective, that's like top dog in college football. They're up there with the Ohio States. They're up there with LSU maybe. That's like top dog stuff. Why would you leave that?
I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, Mike, but Texas has some millionaires. Have you ever heard that?
Some oil money, I think, down there. Big oil money.
Something like that, right? That's kind of a big thing, right? So it's kind of it's also a state where it's easy to recruit because you've got the talent that's within the state of Texas, but they've also dipped into Florida. And they've pulled some guys, out of there. I think Jamie French obviously was a 5-star out of the Florida area as well. So, they're doing incredibly well. So no, I think for Sark, this is going to be. Now look, if you're Sark, you do the right thing, which is you
talk to the NFL.
You allow
an offer back from Texas, get more money from Texas.
Thank you. That's it. Yes. Like, that's smart. Like,
Lane Kiffin does it every week.
You do that, but you're like, I'm never going to leave. But hell, if they're going to give me more money, then my agent needs to float that thing out there every year or two, and I'm going to get more money. And so, at the NFL, you're always hired to be fired. But if you come to a good college program, to your point, you're king. He's the king. What Sark can do no wrong. Sark can have 2 losing seasons and no one's going to be upset at this moment, right? So I think he's good here. I think he's producing talent at a high level. He's doing great at talent development. I don't think Texas will take a huge step back. Look, there's always going to be teams that come and surprise and do well. But look, could I talk myself into 9-3? Sure. Could I talk myself into 11-1? Sure. But can I talk myself into saying, like, this is probably going to be a playoff team, especially under Arch Manning?
That's all that matters nowadays. Just get to the playoffs. It's not even so much about the record, because once you're in, look at Ohio State. They got destroyed by Michigan that final game. It didn't matter, because if you win the national championship, I know it's a big deal, that rivalry. I know, but does it really matter at the end of the day if you win the national championship, if you'll beat Michigan or not? I mean, they can say it does. It doesn't. It doesn't.
No, the main thing is you got to make the playoffs, right? And if you make the playoffs that's your barometer of success. It used to be bowl games. Whatever bowl game you went to was kind of like the barometer of your success. Now it's just about the playoff. What's your playoff record look like? You think Arizona State is upset about their success? They're like, hell, we're riding high right now because we went to the playoffs, right? And so that's for Sark. Now Sark's big thing is he's going to the semifinals for 2 straight years.
Gotta get over the hump.
You got to take the next step, right? That's going to be the next step, and that's if you get eliminated in the semifinals or before, depending on what happens, then people are going to like grumble a little bit, but no one's not going to lose his job. People are just going to want a little bit better results. So I think Texas will be fine. I think there'll be a marquee name. I think because of Arch, you're going to see them a lot. You probably get tired of them, but you'll see them a lot. And like you said, it's a good place for Sark.
Yeah, and one last thing, what you said about the transfer portal is 100% true. I'm a Syracuse guy. Fran Brown had a spring game last month, saw his offensive line was weak, and he needs help with wide receiver. In the past week alone, he signed 3 offensive linemen who are like 6'4", 320, one from South Carolina, one from North Carolina, one from somewhere else I can't remember right now. And then he got the wide receiver last night who spent time in Texas. Washington has some off the field issues, I know, but it's like he just went shopping. And Fran's like, okay, we're going to be all set this year because in the span of a week, you can just add 3 or 4 guys in the spring, and it's going to reshape your team. So teams that use that portal, yeah, you're going to lose a few. Every team does. But if you can leverage it the right way where you're filling needs in the spring, I think that's going to set teams up for success. Texas clearly has the money. They took one of our guys from Syracuse and paid him a lot of money. Fran said, hey, I hugged the kid, told him, take that Texas money. I can't pay you anything close to that. So it's like, that's what the world is. And it's the coaches that can leverage that to their advantage and not harp on who you're losing, but who can add as well are going to be successful. Sark's that guy. Texas is going to be fine. Arch Manning, they're going to be on College Game Day damn near every week this year. I got a feeling.
Yeah. And by the way, just transfer portal thing, quick soapbox for me. Yeah. A lot of times people complain about the portal and, guys being able to move around and all these kind of things. But I would just say, and you're not, but I'm just soapbox for a second. Just always remember that this group of college coaches for years used to be able to control guys. And you remember, we weren't that far away from when the kid wanted to go transfer to somewhere.
Get out of here.
Say, you can't go to this conference. You can't go to this conference. You can't go to this school. And so you had kids that either had to go to Montana or they had to go to a JUCO. Like this is the same group of coaches that Cliff Kingsbury several years ago when Baker Mayfield was a walk-on at Texas Tech. They try to restrict where he could transfer to as a walk-on who paid his own way, right? And so this is what these coaches did, right? And so they created this system of inequity that made it so hard for kids just to leave. I want to go home and be closer to my mom. Well, no, you don't. You can't go anywhere. I'm going to tell you where you can go. Now, it's no fun when the rabbits got the gun. And so now all of a sudden these kids are able to go to where they want to go. And if the college coaches hadn't created that system of inequity then it probably wouldn't be what it is now. But now it is. And so now coaches have to adjust. They have to learn roster management. Get your GMs in here. Learn roster management. And once you learn how to manage a roster, to your point, you can fill the holes. You lose guys, but you fill it up. The whole system is created because of what coaches did years ago. And so now they have to learn how to deal with it.
Yep. And I remember in the playoffs where kids were saying, I'm going to go in the portal. Everyone's like, we got to push back the date. This isn't right. And again, Fran Brown said, no, leave the date where it is. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm a head coach. It's my job. I can do 2 things at once. Prepare for a bowl game and manage the portal. It's not a big deal. Do not push it back. And I think that's the attitude you kind of got to have. It's like we just can't move everything around. You know what? These schools have so many people and they're all making so much money. You can pass out the duties of who's doing what. Yes, we're playing in a bowl game, but you know what? I got these guys on my staff talking to the kids who want to go in the portal, see if we can keep them or not. And if not, who are we going? Like, figure it out. And that's kind of where we're at. I don't hate it per se, because I think it is the one thing that takes a smaller school like I root for, gives them hope where if you got money, you're going to get some halfway decent players and you can compete. Hence last year, they won 10 games. That's where I'm at.
There you are. There you go.
Anwar, thank you so much. This was awesome. Problem. We learned a lot about Quinn Ewers. Everyone, please be sure to read Anwar Richardson at orangebloods.com and follow him on Twitter at Anwar Richardson. Anytime something comes up with Texas, I'm reaching out to you. You're the man.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, guys. Mike here from DolphinsTalk.com. Just want to thank you for watching this video today. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this video. And also just thank you in general. I know you have a lot of other podcast options out there these days, whether it's with the Miami Dolphins or about the Miami Dolphins and with non-Miami Dolphins podcast stuff like true crime, politics, NBA, Major League Baseball. We do appreciate the support you guys provide us, and we do thank you for watching our content. We appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much. Just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And also, don't forget to sign up for our Patreon service. Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. And for just $3 a month, you will get more Miami Dolphins coverage and shows. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Thank you again, and everyone have a great day.